Big exciting news as we start the new day as Steve Mnuchin raises his deal offer for second stimulus check and stimulus package. Oh, this is such incredible, great news that I went to have breakfast at the casino. I was there and I said to Sir Lloyd, who was there, of course, he just never leaves. I said, Sir Lloyd, he raised his deal offer. Mnuchin did? Yes, Mnuchin really raised, he's moving, Mnuchin? I'd be like, yeah, Mnuchin did raise his deal. Wow, more stimulus. So yes, I'm like, yes, more stimulus. This is so exciting. It's just, I'm just flabbergasted. He said, wow, this is incredible, great news. What did the Temple of Mu say? I said, it's the Temple of Doom, not the Temple of Mu. Temple of Mu? No, it's called the Temple of Doom. It's just not the Temple of Mu. I like to call it the Temple of Mu. I'm like, well, get your own YouTube channel, then you can call it the Temple of Mu. Hey, good morning, everybody. This is 28 and an exciting new day of great news with 28 days and more counting down, 29, 28, 27, and we're almost to the election day. It's really incredible, great news as just a little bit more than 2 weeks from the election, as a big movement on your second stimulus check and stimulus negotiations heat up Thursday morning. 2 interviews by Steve Mnuchin in less than 8 hours, and just incredible great news across the board. If you've not subscribed to this channel, please do so. Go to the front of this channel, subscribe. 290 and we're 292, trying to reach 300,000. Also like this video. In this video, I will be going over the incredible movement by Steve Mnuchin on your stimulus as he came up with a higher deal offer this morning. Additionally, he's trying to get the deal done by changing some of the language to just sort of, get it done. Why are we getting stuck up on and I and you and he and common and punctuation marks? Just get the deal done already. This is incredible, great news. I'll be going over the deal amounts, the deal movements, the deal routing times, how fast you could get the stimulus check. And then I'll be going over this strange bit about a deal the day after the election. And for the first time ever on this channel, and I think anyone else in broadcast news anywhere has dealt this for you, why Trump may not want you to have a deal until after the election. We've heard why Pelosi may not want to. I'm going to go over why Trump may not want you. I got to tell you the good and the bad. Let's get to the breaking news. The breaking news is great news. Higher deal offer. Steve Mnuchin overnight moved on his stimulus by saying he's going to give you a bigger amount for contact tracing testing. This is amid a lot of statements by the Temple of Doom, not Moo, overnight that said that, the White House is not dedicated enough to contact tracing and testing. He said simply not true. And you know what? I'm going to make it even clear to Speaker Pelosi today, referring to today, in an interview with CNBC this morning. He says, you know what? I'm just going to let her do the own language she wants for contact testing and tracing. I'm not even going to spend time on language. What does this mean? Well, what these parties have been doing in their 55 minutes of negotiations per day. Yes, only 55 minutes. It's just a hard life that they live. They go over numbers, but they also go over eligibility and language. And sometimes they get locked up on the language and stumble upon the language. They're like, well, you don't have a deal because I don't like your language. Well, Steve Mnuchin says, you know what? I'm just not going to hold up stimulus checks and FPUC and all this other stuff, grants for the American people, because we're having an impasse about language over testing and contact tracing. I'll just do your language. That's fine. Seems so obvious to you and I, but now the reality setting in, so amen to that. Additionally, he included more money for contact testing and tracing, so there's an incredible amount of money. So that narrative from the Temple of Doom is sort of dead at this point, that there's no science behind the White House's offer. They're giving her exactly what she wants for testing and tracing, which is just, we cannot have enough tests and tracing. Amen to that. So with that, we're getting closer with an overall deal that is slightly larger. What's incredibly also great is the deal amounts. Stimulus checks, FPUC, number of people in the household, all really bigger and better and more generous. Let me go over them right now. Steve Mnuchin, $1,200 stimulus checks. Okay. $2,400 married couple. Okay. But SSDI, SSI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits, all of those incredible viewers who made this channel what it is today, you're getting a full stimulus check. Congratulations, $1,200. $1,200. When I moved into the space, I said, you're going to get it. They're like, but how come I didn't get one the first time around? I said, because the first stimulus package said that we're not going to pay veterans, for example, if you're dependent on someone else's tax return. This dependent on someone else's tax return became the reason to not give people a first stimulus check. And a lot of those were my SSDI, SSI, Social Security, railroad benefits, and veterans who were dependents, and they didn't get his first stimulus check. This time, you get a stimulus check, and you get the same amount as everyone else, baby. $1,200. So all adults, $1,200. Doesn't matter, you know, if you wear your hair down, or you wear your hair up, or you say stimulus or stimulus, you get $1,200. All incredible, great news. Next, children. More money. Children up from $500 to $1,000. So children will get double what they were originally going to get. Now, at this point, Mnuchin is higher than Pelosi on both children and adult dependents, more generous than the Democrats, exactly what the president said he was going to do. This is incredibly great news. Third, number of people in the household. By all accounts, it looks like it's going to be a family of 5. So single mom with 4 kids, or husband and wife with 3 kids, all great news. You would get one check for the entire household. This is all great. Not taken out for child support, not taken out for debt collections, not taken out for back taxes. All incredible, great news. So let's just get it out. I mean, let's just get these checks out. Amen. FPUC, also great news. More FPUC. Bigger time frame, longer weeks, more weeks. I mean, that's the number one question that I get from viewers. How many more weeks am I going to have for this? Well, Steve Mnuchin's extending it. Amen. He's extending FPUC further into the future. Now, I would have liked him to go further backwards, but he went further forward. Ultimately, I can't have everything I want. Maybe there's room for improvement. Maybe he'll still improve it, but he's going further into the future. He's going into mid-January, which gives you more weeks of FPUC, which I really do like. If you're going on unemployment, if you're unemployed, let's say, for example, on New Year's Eve, the next morning you wake up and you don't have FPUC, that was what the situation was just a few days ago. Now he's extending it to mid-January. So more weeks, $400 a week. This is incredible, great news. His retroactive date is to mid-September. I wish it went back further. I wish it went back to late July. Third, more stimulus checks. The president and Mnuchin are not against multiple stimulus checks. They've made that clear in countless interviews. So while there may not be a multiple stimulus check in this bill, the president is not adverse to multiple stimulus checks. All incredible, great news. Now, work schedule. Pelosi and Mnuchin apparently have been negotiating 50 minutes to an hour every single day, but have not been really telling us. We know this now because Mnuchin said it on CNBC this morning, Thursday morning, and he said it on Lou Dobbs' Fox Business News Wednesday night. They spend about an hour. They negotiate. They are negotiating. They're not just, commenting about each other's hairstyles. They're actually working. I mean, it really is only an hour. It should be longer. But the great news is that they're there and they're doing that. So then the next question remains is, well, what about what would happen next? And the question is really, what could happen in the next 60 minutes today? Well, Steve Mnuchin is coming to Pelosi with these bigger deal amounts today. And he's also coming with the revelation that we heard overnight, which is absolutely categorically incredible for Purple Power. Remember, Purple Power's focused on executive orders, and Purple Power's focused on truth And Purple Power is focused on numbers and information. And what I'm making clear to you, I made it clear in the morning's LALATE video, is that I'm not going to run fake narratives on this channel anymore. So if Larry Kudlow says something false, I'm not running it. If Nancy Pelosi says something false, I'm not running it. If Steve Mnuchin says something false, I'm not running it. Well, guess what? Steve Mnuchin said a lot of false things in that Lou Dobbs interview, so I'm just not running it. If you want to drop in the comments and say, but Steve said this, I'm not running his fake narratives. I'm done with politicians and fake narratives because it complicates the situation and no one can understand what the numbers are or what the situation is. What's important to understand is the president can do executive orders. In August, in September, the president identified unused money in the coffers, in the accounts of FEMA that was supposed to be used for hurricane natural disaster relief, tornadoes, earthquake, fires, and said, you know what, I'm going to use that for unemployment benefits. Did he ask for congressional approval? No. Did he need congressional approval? No. Did he repurpose the money for a purpose that it was not originally dedicated for? Yes. Was it a big success? Yes. Was it challenged by the Democrats? No. Did it go to court? No. Did people get their money? Yes. Did you like that you got your money? Yes. So I don't want to hear this sort of false narrative, and I saw it last night, I'm not even going to repeat it, from Steve Mnuchin about what the White House can and cannot do. That is sort of a pushback, and I'm not going to run it. What I am going to run is the incredible great news is that there's more money than that guy with the purple shirt said to you in California. Remember how much money I've been telling you? I've been telling you that there's $300 billion from CARES Act 1, PPP, and an additional $200 billion from CARES Act 1 somewhere else in another agency that is unaccounted for that could be done for stimulus. And I said that the CARES Act 1, $300 billion, is enough for your stimulus checks because they only cost about $280 billion, and that the other $200 billion is enough for FPUC to carry you to December. Well, what's the incredible great news we have today? That is that Steve Mnuchin revealed that there's upwards of $700 billion. I told you, if I had access to, walk around the bank accounts there, I would tell you I could find a lot more. But the kid here in California can at least find 500 sitting in front of a bush. Imagine how much more I would find if I was actually in D.C. for you. So Steve Mnuchin identified that there's $130 billion from the last round of PPP. The last round of PPP is not March. The last round of PPP was over the summer. So now we throw 300 on top of 300 and 200. We throw another 130. That brings us to almost 700. And we're not even done yet. Then he identified additional money that is in airport transport and cargo Federal Reserve funds that are sitting around. And that's for the airlines. Then he identified $200 billion that's sitting around in the Federal Reserve's unaccounted for accounts that were to be used for stimulus. I'm presuming this is the Main Street Lending Program, which was a bomb that no one wanted. I did a lot of videos on that. So, we're upwards of like $700, $800 billion of unused CARES 1 to CARES 3 stimulus money that could be done by executive orders. Bottom line is, Purple Power, do your thing. Purple Power, get those tags going. Mnuchin, Meadows, Trump, White House, the press secretary, the campaign manager, the campaign analyst, all those people, as a group, Purple Power, with the hashtag Purple Power, one word, you've been incredibly good on Twitter in finding accounts and making sure they're all tagged. Remember, 1, make sure your tweets are professional. 2, make sure your tweets are respectful, because you don't want to get in trouble. 3, make sure you do not tweet too soon between tweets. Don't tweet every 10 seconds. Your account you'll have issues. So make sure everything is professional. Help one another, retweet one another. Now, timing. This is a strange twist, and no one's going to detail this to you until now. Me. No one has taken into consideration the following factor. Over recent days and weeks, we have heard that Nancy Pelosi is trying to not give you stimulus so that it gives her a Biden win, and that after Biden is elected and comes in office, then she'll do stimulus in January of next year. Okay. The other question that surfaced today is President Trump trying to not give you a stimulus relief because ultimately it won't come into effect to help his reelection, and it would come into effect to potentially help a Joe Biden administration? That is the big question that's surfacing today. Let me explain to you how this works and why this is so adds an additional wrinkle that no one saw coming before. As I reported for weeks and weeks and weeks, the president's executive orders need to get the money in your hand soon enough for his campaign purposes so that you have the money before you vote in the polling place. Perhaps vote after you vote by mail. Already, California's vote by mail numbers, by example, are its highest level of I think vote by mail ever recorded. I mean, just absolutely astronomical number of people voting by mail already. But there are people who are going to vote in the polls, in the polling places, the voting booths on election day. If Trump did an executive order today, you would get your stimulus checks by that day. It's as simple as that. We're at least 10 days away from the election, so that's incredible, great news. The question is, if we're talking about anything but stimulus checks, we're talking about unemployment benefits, we're talking about the grants, the CDC grants, the EIDL grants, the EIDL loans. If Trump signed a deal with the Temple of Doom today and it became a law, next week when Mitch reopens the Senate, when would you get that stimulus relief? You would get it after the election day. That's, of course, that's an easy thing. Well, what happens if Trump loses on election day? Who gets the benefit of that stimulus relief? His opponent, Joe Biden. Trump would be, in essence, passing stimulus relief to rebound an economy so that Joe Biden gets a rebounded economy that needs the stimulus right now. So with that, there's now new concerns that perhaps Trump, in looking at the polls, is worried he's going to lose. And that if he's going to lose, he does not want to give stimulus to the American people so that that stimulus floats into the economy in the advent of Joe Biden coming into office so that he has a rebounded economy. Here's an example. The new unemployment numbers were released this morning. Very bad. Actually got worse. So if you got a stimulus package approved today for unemployment benefits, for example, people would start getting those unemployment benefits between the election day and between the inauguration day. And ultimately, the benefits of that stimulus would help the next president. If it's not Trump, it would help Biden. So does Trump not want to give you stimulus so that because he's worried he may lose and that it will help Joe Biden, his opponent, have a nice buffer of great stimulus coming in 3 months later? The timing is really critical because a lot of the stimulus could float into the economy in November or December. And by the time that Joe Biden comes in, votes, sees a bill, gets on his desk, he will have several months of Trump stimulus to help a Joe Biden administration. A lot of things to think about. It doesn't really concern our efforts, with the exception of understanding we need to do things on the come. We need, as Purple Power, to get this executive orders done right now because we can't be played around with Nancy Pelosi's not going to do stimulus, Trump's not going to do stimulus, all this type of stuff. And Mnuchin on Lou Dobbs last night said, well, as soon as Trump wins, then we're going to do this. Okay, what if Trump loses? What's the narrative then? We as American people need stimulus regardless of, despite who the president is. We need stimulus right now, despite the election results. And as a Purple Power family, we understand the push is underway to get the stimulus approved now, not waiting around. Let me answer some incredible questions from last night. Dexter, our government is destroying the American people. Diana, they need to stop fighting. Greg, still no vote on stimulus. Susan, no problem voting them out. Michelle, we just need to clean our house on our Congress. David Shaw, the people are standing in line for food and Pelosi doesn't care. Terry, why wouldn't he bring out a bill that doesn't have stimulus checks that go so slow? Referring to Mitch McConnell. Zenaba, Pelosi put us out of misery. She's torn to our side. Purple Power, you also have to remain focused on seats for stimulus. You have to make sure that these congressional officials understand that they're going to get voted out less than 20 days away from now for the election because they did not give you stimulus. Tammy, sounds like a bad version of Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train. Elizabeth, I've lost faith in our government. Paul, the Wolfmen chewed Nancy. Nick, Trump should order Congress back and tell them that do this bill. Kiana, Congress needs to stand and do a timeout. Joanne, Nancy has been taking off the notions for us for stimulus checks. She's not helping us. Richard, if they can't help the USA, their own people, they need out. Amen. If you have comments to today's video, drop them in the comments below. Thank you for making yesterday's 28 our most watched 28 broadcast ever. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Boy, we're only about 8 days into this new show, so I really appreciate it. And thank you for making early mornings LALATE a big hit as well. Go to the French channel, subscribe because we're trying to reach 300,000 subscribers, and we're going to get there. Also, like this video. Coming up next is afternoons LALATE at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. Starts with a check. Then 30 minutes later is a continuation of check with hazard pay and grants. I identified a lot of grants for you yesterday, so tune into that video. I'm doing grants galore. And then McConnell versus Trump and FPUC and unemployment. And then 30 minutes after that is Mnuchin versus Pelosi. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay in LA for more.